Round two for the animal science unit. We have already talked about careers. The next thing we typically talk about is going to be biotechnology in one particular industry. This will be fairly short. I only have a few slides on this, but there is a lot of biotechnology that is involved within the animal science industry, and some of it is fairly common, and then some of it is really more it can be done, but it's not done very often. The one that you probably think about the most when you're thinking about biotechnology in the animal science industry is animal cloning. And here's the thing. Um, yes, we had Dolly the sheep many years ago, and if you're not aware of the story, Dolly the sheep was cloned from a sheep that was already an aged animal, and so she lived a shortened lifespan because her genetics were that of an aged animal. Um, Dolly was cloned, and they're called Dolly because the people who were working in the facility where they actually did the cloning were obsessed with Dolly Parton, and they actually took the clone tissue from her mammary system. So, a little fun fact there. But animal cloning is not as popular as what you might think, given that it has been around for a long time. It is sometimes done, or the I don't even want to say it's sometimes done. I would say that as far as animal cloning, it could be done, and there are benefits to things like product uniformity. It could be done to help save endangered species, animals that are being reproduced from the tissue of remaining animals, and then they could procreate and have babies and reproduce and help to um, repopulate the species. Typically, more than anything else, it would be good for research purposes as far as using genetically identical animals. But really, again, this is not something that is done on a widespread basis. This is really, when we're looking at the possibilities of animal cloning and the benefits of animal cloning, and these benefits that are listed here on this slide, we are really looking more at possibilities versus real world applications, because we're really not doing a whole lot of animal cloning. It's kind of one of those things. It's kind of a scenario that we like to think about because it's interesting and it's cool, but it's really not something that's happening a whole lot. Um, Here is just a quick uh, diagram of how the actual cloning happened. Kind of gives you a step by step of how that happened. You've got that mammary cell, and then you have an egg cell, and that mammary cell is actually going to be infused into the egg cell from another donor. So you've got two sheep that are already involved there. Those cells are going to be fused and put into a surrogate, and then you have Dolly that's born. So this is not commonplace in the animal science industry, but it is something that is possible. It has been done. It's just not feasible on a large scale level. One thing that you do hear from time to time is BST, and BST is a hormone that is actually it's naturally produced in the pituitary gland of cattle, but there are some, and this is getting to be less and less of the case because most of the time you see people who are advertising BST or RBST free dairy products. But sometimes, in some situations, as far as cattle or dairy cattle are concerned, BST is this hormone that is given to cattle. It's already produced, but sometimes they're given extra, and that extra helps them to increase the amount of milk that the animal is producing. And so, most of the time, you're looking at animals who are in large scale dairy industries, but we have become so conscious about the things that we're doing and the things that we are putting into our mouths and purchasing for our children to eat and consume that most of the time you're seeing specifically um, RBST free products. and so it's not necessarily something that's being very widely used these days. But it is something that would help to produce more milk in the dairy industry for those people who are looking to make more money. This is probably, of the biotechnology practices, this is one of the ones that is used more often. It's used in a lot of different areas of animal science. This picture right here looks like you're actually working with a cow for this particular one. But artificial insemination is used in the cattle industry, the swine industry, the horse industry, equine industry, and it is used very, very heavily in the poultry industry when it comes to turkeys. All turkeys that are produced on farm in the United States are actually artificially inseminated. And the reason for that is because we have decided that the breast meat of the animal is the most valuable meat, and so that's on the front of the animal. And so we have um, genetically engineered, not done any kind of craziness to them. We basically have done what's called selective breeding. We have selectively bred animals to grow more quickly and have more breast meat. And because of that, they fall over whenever they're mated. And so all turkeys have to be have to be artificially inseminated so that they can actually withstand the weight of the male. So since there's not a male, they don't have to worry about it. So artificial insemination actually takes the semen from a healthy male and injects it into a healthy female. One male can inseminate many, many females this way, and you don't have to have a male on farm. The semen is typically going to be frozen in liquid nitrogen, and then it is going to be released into that animal. We have attempted artificial insemination with our goats before, but we've never been terribly successful, and that's why we keep bucks on farm, just because we want to go through and make sure that we are getting our animals bred. And we have some people who have helped us and some people who have offered to come in and do AI clinics for us. We just have not had a whole lot of success with it. So something that we potentially could do on farm while you're still in high school. So it's something that we have looked at and could potentially do as far as our goats. We're just not there right now. Sometimes whenever you're doing artificial insemination, part of that process is sometimes embryo transfer. And embryo transfer basically means that you have inseminated an animal and maybe you have multiple embryos in that animal. Once you have the multiple embryos in that animal, you want to flush those out. One female, as far as cattle, can really only carry one baby per year. But if you have several embryos that have been inseminated through the process of artificial insemination, then you have to put them somewhere. And that putting them somewhere is using a surrogate to actually carry the babies till birth. So one female can actually produce more calves in a year because of that, because we can do what's called super ovulating her, which means that she releases more than one egg during a breeding cycle. We artificial inseminate, and hopefully more than one egg actually gets fertilized. And then those fertilized eggs are going to be removed from her body and they're going to be doled out into surrogate mothers. And so the reason that we sometimes do this, and we don't do this on our farm, we're not that technologically advanced. We don't have the ability to do the super ovulating and the flushing and things like that. But if you have a really superior animal that you want to have babies from, this is one way of getting lots of babies from those superior animals. Not commonplace in our goat industry, but I would say it is getting to be more commonplace in things like the cattle industry. So, to me, biotechnology, as far as animal science, is interesting because there are so many possibilities and opportunities. And my cats are fighting with each other right now as we speak. So, as we're looking at biotechnology and animal science, it is something that is pretty interesting, and it's fairly becoming fairly commonplace. Some of it, uh, obviously not the cloning part, but next time we'll start looking at the beef industry and things that are going on in the beef industry and some of the more popular breeds of